if you're planning on making a laptop bag, then I highly, highly recommend this beautiful free pattern from Also Petite. This laptop bag is amazing, and Also Petite did an incredible job designing it and giving you the instructions step by step on how to make this bag. And the best part of it, it's a free pattern, so you cannot lose. I want to thank Also Petite for allowing me to make this video tutorial showing you how to make this beautiful laptop bag. I just want to say I am not an affiliate of Also Petite or of any of the companies, vendors that I'm going to mention during this video, but I have added a link to their shops down in the description. The pattern comes in 2 different sizes. This is the biggest one, which is about 17 inches wide and 13 inches tall. I decided to make the bigger one because I like to carry with my laptop other things like the charger, portable drives, a mouse, yes, a mouse, notebooks, etc. So I figure the bigger bag will be better for me. But if you have a smaller laptop, or if you have a tablet or an iPad, you can make the smaller size that she offers with the pattern. So they both come with the same free pattern. The bag comes with a slip pocket in the front that you will need a magnetic snap, and it's a pretty big pocket, okay, deep all the way to the bottom, and a zipper pocket in the back. Okay, it has a zipper closure. If you're a beginner bag maker, don't let the zipper intimidate you. When you add the casing to the zipper, it makes it easier to install to the actual bag. The handles, how cute are these handles that you have dual handles here, and you can use, your solid and then your accent fabric. How cute is that? And the handles, you can do optional add rivets to the handle and to the strap connectors. Those are optionals, the rivets, but they're so cute. Why not, right? The inside, very simple. Only a slip pocket on the inside, and so spacious. You can add a zipper pocket on the inside. You can add another slip pocket. You can really modify it on the inside any way you want. I did not make any modifications to this pattern. I made it exactly the way she drafted the pattern. And let me tell you, for me, that is very rare because I always end up changing the pattern somehow. But I didn't have to do that this time. I mean, her instructions are so clear. It makes so much sense. There was no need for me to do any modifications. This gusset fit perfectly, okay? Fit perfectly, everything. The only thing that I made the mistake, it was me. It's not the fabric, it's not the pattern, it was me. I didn't realize that I didn't have enough fabric to make this bag. So I started cutting the fabric. And when I started cutting the patterns, when I got to the point of making the straps, I realized I didn't have enough fabric to make the straps. So I almost didn't add the straps. But then I said, well, I really want the crossbody strap. So I ended up buying a strap. I could have made it. I have videos here showing you how to make them, but I didn't. So I bought the strap, and that's the only thing I did different, okay? And with that said about the fabric, when you make this bag, make sure that you pick the right fabric and the right stabilizer for your fabric, especially if you don't have an industrial machine. And you will see why towards the end of this video. I am not going to spoil it for you. You will see what happened. But I made a mistake. It's all me. The pattern designer is great. The fabric is great. It was just my mistake. So take a look at that and see what happened. But I managed, okay? I finished it. Other than that, I think we are ready to get started. I am using this laminated quilting cotton. So it has a plastic lamination here, which will make it easier to clean. I'm using this soft vinyl, smooth vinyl, sorry. But it feels really nice, and I think it's going to be really easy to work with in this beautiful green color. and I'm using waterproof canvas. So here's my waterproof canvas. All the links, of course, are down in the description for these products, the fabrics, etc. And I'm going to use just regular all-purpose thread in like a grayish color to help me. I want to use the thread that I can use the same for the top and the bobbin, for the, you know, the needle and the bobbin, that it will look good on the exterior and on the inside. So I think this gray is going to work. I am going to use weft fusible interfacing for the quilting cotton. And I'm also using my Bosal sew-in foam stabilizer. And for the pocket, I am using ripstop. This is great because it's waterproof, completely waterproof. You don't need to interface it or anything. So it's easy to clean. That's why I'm using that for the pocket, the zipper pocket. My rotary cutter, double-sided tape, 1/4 inch, my little 1x12 ruler. I'm gonna try this new white ink marker and my erasable marker. This is great when I'm using vinyl to open up any seams. Fray check always handy, or fabric glue, wonder clips, and what else? For the needles, I'm going to use the 100/16 needles, only because I'm using vinyl and it's a little bit thick, and you know, you have a couple of layers. So I also have the 100/18. I think those are way too thick and I don't want to leave big holes on my vinyl. So 100/16, and I only have 2 left. So I guess it's time to start ordering. I'm going to use this beautiful zipper by the Yard. It's a number 5 zipper, nylon teeth. I'm going to cut it to the measurements that she says, and I am going to use 3 zipper pulls for this bag. For this pattern, rivets are optional, but I am going to add them because I really like the look of the rivets, and they really are not that expensive. For that, I'm going to use my Cam Snap table press and the dies that go with these rivets. And these are, originally they were called mushroom rivets, but I think they changed their name to dome rivets. And they have like this dome shape, okay? So for the top panel, I cut 2 pieces of the cotton, quilting cotton, and I fused the woven interfacing on each one of the pieces. I used parchment paper in between the woven interfacing and the fabric, and I did it fast, but you know, just long enough for the interfacing to fuse on the fabric and not damage my laminated plastic here. I mean, it's doable. You just have to be quick. For the 2 types of handles, you have handle F and handle E. And so I'm using my vinyl and the quilting cotton, and I added woven interfacing to the quilting cotton. I am not adding any other form of interfacing or stabilizer to the handles. For the actual body, I cut 2 pieces of my waterproof canvas, and it doesn't need to be interfaced because it's thick enough. So that is only 2 pieces. And also 2 pieces of the foam stabilizer. Now this pattern piece right here is the bottom part of the bag, as well as the slip pockets. And for this one, as you already know, I ran out of fabric in the middle of cutting all of it because unfortunately I didn't have enough of this beautiful olive smooth, ultra smooth vinyl. But I still want this to be the outside of my bag, okay? So I still want these 2 panels to be the outside of my bag. So I cut 2 for the exterior. And I cut 2 for the slip pocket on the inside of the laptop bag using the waterproof canvas. So I got that covered, but I still need fabric for the interior slip pocket, for the outside, the one that has the magnetic snap. So for that, I decided to cut a little piece of my quilting cotton, and I went ahead and added the woven interfacing to that, and another piece of waterproof canvas. I could have cut it in gray also, but I wanted to differentiate this slip pocket on the outside to the slip pocket on the inside. So in reality, for the outside, these two are going to go together. Okay, these two are for the inside. I mean, the 2 waterproof canvas are for the inside. And this is going to be the exterior where the zipper pocket is. And this is kind of going to be the front, but then this is going to cover it. Okay? And you already know that because you already saw the final bag. But this is the thought process right before making the bag. No, as you can see, I didn't add a foam stabilizer. I didn't add any extra woven interfacing just to the quilting cotton, because I figure this is a lot of layers already as it is. So I'm okay. I think it's gonna work out. Then we have the gusset. And again, the exterior part of the gusset is going to be the beautiful ultra soft vinyl. The lining will be my waterproof canvas. Doesn't need to be interfaced. And I did cut a piece of the Boso sewing foam stabilizer to add to the exterior gusset. Or the interior or the lining, I don't know yet. But I figured that will be important to kind of give the bag a structure. And finally, we have the zipper casings. And so I have 2 pieces of that with the pretty ultra soft vinyl, the waterproof canvas for the lining, and 2 pieces of the sew-in foam stabilizer. So that is it for the pattern pieces. We're going to start by making the handles. So you're going to take your bottom and top handles. You're going to find the center mark. So with your ruler, especially if you have faux leather, you're going to grab your ruler and mark the center. And I'm going to use my chalk because it's a little bit skinnier. And I'm just going to mark my center piece here. It moved. Okay. And go along the entire strap. Okay. And I'm going to mark the center on the fabric side by folding it in half and finger pressing it. Okay, so there's my center. I would use the iron for this step, but because of the laminated coating that this fabric has, I really can't do that. So finger pressing it is what's going to work. I guess we're going to have to use double-sided tape for this one as well because I cannot press it flat. So I like to put my double-sided tape along the outer edge. Then I'm going to peel it off and carefully fold it towards that center marking. this is the fabric one. And now we're going to take the other part of our handle, which is the bottom handle, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take some double-sided tape and tape it along the edges. You can do it along the line or along the outer edges, really up to you, whichever way is easier for you. I started doing the outer line recently, and I found that, for me at least, was easier. Yeah, I really think it's a matter of preference. What's the most important is that you find that middle point and that you use, at least for me, something that will create a thin line, because I was trying to use this new marking pen and it's way too thick, so I have to find a way to sharpen it where it's like pointy and make the line a little bit thinner for me. Now the other side. Perfect. Now we're going to join them together, and the outer one, which is the vinyl one, will go against the fabric one, so both raw edges going to touch each other. You're going to put wrong sides together, so pretty much the area where the two raw edges meet is the wrong side of the strap. You're going to put them together like this and stick it to the vinyl side using the double-sided tape. And again, I'm just going to take my clips and clip it together. So just take your time, make sure that everything looks even, that you don't have any of the straps too much going on one side or the other, like this one. You see, you see it, you see the green here, but you don't see it here. So I have to lift it up and move it again. That happens. I mean, this is a process that, it could happen. I'm just lifting it up a little and just making sure that it is as even as it could possibly be. There you go. See, now you see green and green. Now I want to share something with you. This is a step that I'm going to take that is not part of the instructions. In her instructions, she says to go ahead and stitch the entire handles together all at once. I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to cut it based on her measurements and then stitch each handle separately. I don't like to back stitch on my vinyl, and I don't want to stitch it and then cut it and cut the stitching. It may not be that important, but it's something I prefer not to do if I don't have to. Quick tip to help you stitch the handles together. I decided to use a walking foot because the walking foot will help feed both layers of fabric at the same time. And I want to make sure my handles are even. I don't have any skipped stitches or anything like that. And being that I'm using vinyl and laminated quilting cotton, which is like having vinyl, because that laminated material will get stuck either on the presser foot or the needle plate. So having the walking foot really helps feed the handle, the fabrics evenly, both top and bottom. It really helps also with the vinyl. So if you don't have a walking foot, you can definitely use a Teflon foot. And also make sure you put a piece of tissue paper over the needle plate to help the fabric move and slide. Otherwise, it will get stuck in the needle with a needle plate. Stitch length should be 4 millimeters. I recommend you do a 1/4 inch seam allowance just to make sure that you catch both layers. Because if you do 1/8, you can catch both layers, but you have to be extra careful. Make sure that you don't miss the bottom layer. But a 1/4 inch is good. And as you notice, I left these little tails of thread, right? And it's because I like to tie the knots on my thread when I sew with vinyl. So very simple. I'm just going to show you how I do that. I have the top thread here and the bobbin thread down in the bottom. So I'm just gonna take my top thread and pull it. And when I pull, my bobbin thread comes through right there. Okay, so I take an owl or whatever pointy tool you have and just pull the bobbin thread towards the front where you have the top thread. And or you can do it backwards too. You can do it the other way around where you pull the thread to the bobbin through the back. Usually you want to do it to the back, but I did it to the front so that it's easier to see because this fabric doesn't have any print, so it's easier to see. So I'm just going to tie a couple of knots here. Okay. Once I do that, I cut the thread carefully, so making sure I don't cut the knots on my fabric. And I just put a couple of drops of fray check. And that secures my stitching in place. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that with all the other pieces of thread that I have here for my handles. Once you finish your handles and the strap connector piece, you're gonna cut the long piece in two because you want 2 strap connectors. Take your top panels, that's pattern A, and you're going to place the handles and the strap connector following the measurements that are in the pattern piece and on the instructions. So I took the measurements. So I did this one already. I took the measurements and I am going to place my strap connector right here, and I'm just going to take a couple of wonder clips to keep it in place. And I have my 2 markings here for the handle. I take the other part of my handle. So I have my marking here, so I'm going to place my handle right next to that marking, and I'm going to put a wonder clip here, and I'm going to do the same on this side, just like this. Now I'm going to take them to the sewing machine, and I'm going to baste stitch them here along the bottom on both strap connectors and only along the bottom for the handles. Really quick before you take it to the sewing machine and baste stitch the strap connector here to your top panel, get your rectangle rings and insert it into the strap connector before stitching it, okay? I almost forgot to mention that. Here they are, the 2 pieces. Now we're going to put this aside and we're going to work on the zipper pocket. Take your zipper pocket, pattern G, and you're going to place a marking on the wrong side of the fabric for the placement of your zipper. I don't have a wrong or right because this fabric looks the same on both ends, even though one side is a little more shiny than the other. So in my mind, the right side is the shiny and the wrong side is the not so shiny. So take your measurements. I have my little ruler here, And the good thing is that she offers the measurements in centimeters, because the pattern designer is not in the United States, but she also gives you the inches measurement. So I appreciate that a lot. So go ahead and mark the placement of your zipper. Okay, so you're going to take your bottom panel, okay? And on the right side of it, you're going to mark, and she gives you the measurements, of course, based on her measurements, a line down from the top, down, okay? Then you're going to take your zipper pocket, and with the wrong side facing you, which is where you drew the markings, where you're going to place the zipper, you're going to align and center the top line, the top edge of that fabric along that line. So actually, let me mark the center here, because I don't think I want to make sure I have the right center. So I'm just going to take my chalk and my zipper pocket fabric already kind of has the center marked here. So I'm just going to align those two and align it along that top line that I marked. And I'm just going to grab, I don't have enough pins. Just gonna grab some of these long pins and keep the fabric in place. You can use double-sided tape for this step if you want, and if you're using quilting cotton or home decor fabric, you can pin it in place. But because I'm using this faux leather, and to be honest, I kind of already placed it here, I'm just going to do it this way, because these are long enough that it can hold the fabric in place for me. Now I'm going to take it to the sewing machine and stitch around the rectangle. She gives a very good tip, which I'm going to follow and mention it here for you. Do not start stitching at any of the corners. That will help you avoid bulk. So I am definitely going to then start stitching here at the bottom. When I get to the corner, of course, leave the needle down and move the fabric, continue, and so forth. And she also said not to back stitch, but instead stitch over the first couple of stitches, and that should, you know, keep it in place. I'm also going to leave a long tail of thread and just pull the thread to the back, maybe, and kind of secure it that way with a freight check like I've been doing. Consider liking this video and subscribing to this channel if you have learned something today. So once your front zipper pocket is done, you're going to take one of the panels A that you completed with the handle, and you're going to join that panel to your zipper pocket right sides together like this. Pin them in place, okay, aligning the top edges and making sure that your handle is not crooked or twisted. Take this to the sewing machine and stitch it together using the seam allowance that she provides in the pattern instructions. Make sure that your D-ring is away from your stitch line here, because you don't want your needle to hit that. After completing this step, you are going to take the seam and you're going to push it to the bottom panel. If you have an iron and you have fabric that you can press, at this point you will use your hot iron and press it. I don't want to iron, I can't iron this, So I have my little seam roller, and I'm going to help it by kind of rolling the seam down a little bit like this. Okay, as much as I can. In the back and on the front. And next we're going to top stitch the bottom here along the bottom panel. 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So top stitching, for top stitching is 4mm stitch length, but for vinyl I'm using 4mm stitch length anyway. So let's do that. As you notice, I pull the fabric to help the seam allowance here so it doesn't get bulky. Next, we're going to add the foam to this exterior part that we just finished. And I don't have fusible foam, so in order to kind of stick this temporarily, not for forever, but just enough to get me through the sewing process, I'm going to use this basting adhesive. I'm just going to spray a little bit, not a lot, over it. And on the wrong side, of course, I am going to place that part where I sprayed it, and I'm just going to join it here carefully. So now I'm going to turn it with the right side facing me, and I already placed the markings where I'm going to stitch here the handles in place. And when I stitch the handles in place, that is going to stitch also the foam. So that is going to secure my foam in place. And she says to stitch a rectangle around the handles here and on the top here of the strap connector. Now we're going to make the other side of the bag. We're going to take the other bottom part and the other top panel, panel A, that we did. So as you can see, I already kind of joined them together with the wonder clips. I am going to stitch them here, join the other foam stabilizer, and then stitch the handles in place. I'm going to add the rivets now that my handles are stitched in place. And as you can see, I stitched around the outer edge of the handle and the strap connector. So I need to find the middle point here inside the rectangle where I'm going to put my rivet. And for the strap, the same thing. Actually, she placed the rivet a little bit closer to the D-ring. So I may do that as well. Just add it around like here. But this is really up to you. There's really no measurements on where to place the rivets. I have this ruler that I purchased a while back, and it gives you the placement for rivets. It's called a rivet centering ruler from Sew Sweetness. I'm not an affiliate of Sew Sweetness. I don't even know if she still carries it, but I use it every once in a while. And what I like about it is that she has, here's the 1/2 inch spacing. So these are From here to here is 1 inch, so every half an inch there is a hole that you can mark the placement for your rivets. This one is 3/4 of an inch spacing, so here from here is 1 inch, and then it's marked right there at the 3/4 of an inch mark, then 3/4 of an inch, and so forth. And this one is 1 inch placement, so every inch. So the perfect placement is the 3/4 of an inch spacing. It fits right in the center. So I can place my ruler there and take a marker or pen and just mark where I'm going to place my rivet. Just a little dot in there. And that's where I'm going to punch my hole. To install the magnetic snaps now to the front pocket, I'm going to take the lining slip pocket and fold it in half to find the middle point and place the marking based on her pattern where I should place my magnetic snap. Right there. This is the wrong side of the fabric, okay? I'm going to take the little washers, and you see how in that little circle center, I'm going to place it there at that marking point carefully. And then I'm just going to draw 2 lines on the sides. And I'm going to grab my scissors. Sometimes you can also grab your seam ripper and very, very carefully cut there. Or if you have also an X-Acto knife, you can do this as well. So I'm going to use my X-Acto knife to just cut a little piece here of the opening. I also take a piece of foam and draw the markings on it from my washer. And I use this to kind of protect the fabric when I insert the magnetic snaps. Now I'm going to take the male side and insert it front to back, so exterior to lining, and put the foam, the washer, and close the prongs either with your hands, or if you have a small tool, you can use it at this point. It is recommended that you protect your fabric by putting a piece of duct tape or also a little piece of woven interfacing over the prongs of the magnetic snap. That will really help protect your fabric from the wear and tear. Now bring your exterior slip pocket, and with the lining side, you're going to place them right sides together. So you see here your magnetic snap. Like that. And now you're going to join them. You're going to stitch them along the top here, following the seam allowance provided in the pattern. Now fold it with the wrong size together so that you can see the exterior and the lining. If your seam here is too bulky and you're having a hard time pressing it together, you can also reduce that seam by cutting it in half. So I'm just going to take my scissors and cut it in half here, carefully without cutting the stitch line. Now I can again open it and press that seam flat. And for that, you can push your seam towards the lining. And if you have, of course, fabric that you can press with an iron, you will do that. But in my case, I'm using the seam roller. So I'm going to press that towards my lining. And that will make my seam look really nice and flat. Now I'm just going to put some wonder clips here to keep it in place before I take it to the sewing machine. And now you're going to take this to your sewing machine and you're going to top stitch it about 1/8 of an inch seam allowance from the edge using 4mm stitch length. Once we do this part, now we need to install the other side of the magnetic snap. And the instructions say to line up the pocket, the front pocket, along the bottom here, and lift this up and find the pointy side here of your magnetic snap and place it over the fabric and just mark a little dot in there. I am not sure and I don't see measurements. This makes me nervous. It really does. I am going to put wonder clips here to make sure my pocket doesn't move out of place, right? Let's try to make it where the pocket doesn't move out of place. Even though it looks crooked, it looks higher here and lower there. So I gotta, okay, so yeah, definitely place the pocket over the exterior and make sure that everything is straight, okay? That all the edges are aligning with each other and that you have wonder clips to hold it in place and that it looks straight here, and it does. So now we're going to press with your finger, and as I press here with my finger, it's supposed to mark the fabric. And so it's hard to tell because my fabric is shiny and it has a lot of print. So I am assuming it's right there. Okay, that's it. That's what I'm going to do. And now I'm going to install the other side of my magnetic snap, following the same procedures as I did with the male side of it. Now let's test it, and it looks perfect. It worked. Great. Now we're going to take it to the sewing machine and stitch it together in place. Now we're going to do the lining slip pocket, which you are going to take both bottom panels from the lining fabric, join them right sides together. Make sure that all the sides align and match. And we're just going to stitch them together along the top, okay, following the seam allowance. Now we're going to follow the same steps that we did for the front pocket. You're going to trim your seam in half, open the pocket, and press the seam flat. Okay, so use a hot iron or your seam roller. And once you do that, you're going to close your pocket again so that you can see the exterior of the fabric on both sides, or the exterior fabric on both sides. Make your seam flat with your fingers, put some wonder clips, and take it to the sewing machine and stitch it on the top only. Take your lining slip pocket and place it on one of the lining panels, right sides together, and you're going to stitch them in place. Base stitching. starting from the top of the pocket, going around the curves in the bottom of the panel, and ending at the top of the slip pocket. Once you're finished with your lining, you're going to take your exterior front panel, the one with the slip pocket, and you're going to join it to the lining wrong sides together. The one side with the slip pocket on the exterior is the same one with the slip pocket on the inside of the bag. And matching all the corners and the curves, you're going to align the pieces so that you can take it to the sewing machine and stitch it in place. For the bottom here, I use these hair clips because they hold a lot of fabric. And then my wonder clips I'm going to use on the top here because they don't hold that much fabric, that many layers. So that is the reason why. So just make sure everything looks good and take it to the sewing machine and follow the seam allowance given in the pattern instructions. And now we're going to do the same with the other exterior, the one with the zipper pocket. We're going to grab it and grab the other lining piece that doesn't have anything, and we're going to join them wrong sides together, pin them in place, just like we did with the other exterior panel, and stitch them together in place. After we have these two together, okay, we're just now going to make the casing, the zipper casing and the gusset. Now we're going to make the zipper casing. And so I need my exterior fabric, my zipper tape, and my lining fabric. And you can do this different ways. If you have quilting cotton or home decor fabric, you can put the zipper there with the exterior, stitch it, and then put the lining on top of it and stitch it. Now, I have vinyl here and of course my waterproof canvas. In many cases, when you have vinyl, you don't want to stitch over it more than once. So what the recommendation is that you put it all together, you sandwich your zipper tape in between the exterior and the lining, and you stitch it all at once. But I'm going to do something a little bit different today. I'm actually going to stitch up against the lining and then add the exterior. So the way I have it here is I have the exterior right side facing me, the zipper right side down, okay, and the lining right side down. I'm going to put the lining right side against the wrong side of the zipper. So my zipper teeth are here, and this is my zipper. So I'm just going to align it like this along the edge. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch my zipper to the lining first. But by doing it like this, I can see better where my zipper teeth are. Now that I have this stitched together, I'm going to take my exterior and with the right side facing down against the right side of the zipper, so right sides together, I am going to now match my exterior to my lining with the zipper. In this way, when I stitch it, I'm going to take it back to the sewing machine and I'm going to stitch over the stitch line that's already there. And that way I know for a fact then that my vinyl is only going to be stitched once and I'm at the right distance from my zipper teeth. Flip both pieces of the zipper casing away from the zipper and make sure you press your seam flat by either using an iron or your seam roller. And then you're going to top stitch the zipper casings near the zipper teeth, and you're going to baste stitch them along the other long edge. As you can see, we finished one side. Now I'm going to do the other side. And I'm going to take my lining again with the right side facing down against the wrong side of the zipper tape. I am going to align it like this and stitch it in place together. And then take the right side take the exterior and place it right side down and then stitch it over that line and do the exact same thing that I did for this. And this is how the final piece looks, front and back. Now we're going to join the bottom gusset. And as you can see, I joined the foam interfacing to the lining, but here is the exterior fabric. And what we're going to do is that we're just going to join the zipper case here to the gusset. And I'm going to trim off this excess fabric, this excess zipper here. And after I trim it off, I am going to actually run a stitch line over the zipper teeth there because I don't want it to open up in case it opens. I don't want my zipper pull to come off. So let me go do that now. To join the bottom gusset with the zipper panel or the zipper casing here, we're going to take the lining side, right sides together, and align it on one side and the other like this. And what we're going to do is that we're going to sandwich our zipper casing between the two pieces of the gussets. So here's the lining. And now for the exterior, we're going to do the same thing. You're gonna take the right sides together and join it here. And we're going to stitch these in place using the seam allowance that she mentions in her instructions. This is pretty thick, so definitely if you're using a domestic sewing machine, take your time or simply cut the foam smaller so that the seam is not so thick. Now that we're finished with that part, we are going to turn the gusset right side out and press the seam here again with a flat hot iron or with your seam roller, and you're going to top stitch the seam on both sides as well as joining both exterior and lining gussets together, just base stitching it. So as you can see, I jumped from the last step to this one. Looks like I did a lot, right? And it's because I encounter a few situations with the thickness of the gusset. So now that I made it to this point, I want to show you what happened. I turned the gusset right side out and I top stitch here along the seams for the zipper casing and the gusset, right? Now we have to join the exterior panels to the gusset. And what I did is that I placed the markings so in fourths. So you take the exterior panel and you mark your quarters. You fold it in half and you mark your quarters. And you do the same for the gusset. You stretch it and you mark your halves here and your halves here. And so at this point when I did that, I decided to staple the gusset and the exterior panel together on those 4 points. So there, here, and on the 2 sides. That way I know for a fact my gusset is not going to move around, because my wonder clips unfortunately were not holding the thickness, okay, of all these layers together. Next, you can start aligning the border of your exterior panel to your gusset. Once you get to the corner here, you're going to take your scissors and you're going to cut a couple of notches, 3 or 4 or 5, however many you need. And that will help the fabric. You see how the corner now expands. And I'm just going to take my stapler and I'm gonna staple there. That's going to help. And go ahead and do the same on the other 3 corners. I changed the needle on my sewing machine to the thickest needle I have, which is 110/18, so that I can stitch over this thick seam. And I tested and it went through no problem. I stitched this with the new needle, new thicker needle. So it should be okay for the rest. So let's go ahead and continue finishing with the corners of this exterior. If you don't want to staple your fabric, you can also use some sort of clips like these. These also help. I used to have more, but I used them all for something else. So these are the ones I found. And I think I'm ready now to take this to the sewing machine. So make sure again that when you stitch this, you don't hit the staples. And I'll be honest with you, there was a section here I could not stitch. So lesson learned, okay? If you're going to use faux leather, no need to use foam. Interfacing, if anything, I could have used like maybe Decoville Light or something like that, but it's too late now. What I'm going to do now is trim this in half. But I am debating if I should, because I am debating about adding the binding to this. This is how it's going to look when I turn it right side out, which is not bad. It's gonna have maybe an opening there. And so when you look at it on the inside, what I may do is just trim off the regular fabric and leave the waterproof canvas fabric. I may do that, but you know what? Let me do that before I join the other side. So I remove my staple, and I'm just going to leave the waterproof canvas, and I'm just going to trim off any of this excess fabric. Okay, so I was trying to add the other side, this other exterior, and it's just too thick because not only I had all these layers, but also the layers for the front pocket, the inside pocket, the foam, all of it. Wow. Okay, so I opened the gusset again on one side, not the whole thing, because I had already joined one side, right? So on the opposite side where I had not joined anything yet, I cut the foam in half so that I have enough. Like now this is thin. Okay, what I'm going to do is join these together by stitching them, the lining and the exterior gussets, and I am going to then join the other exterior panel to this, and I hope it's not as thick. I mean, it feels very thick, but it wasn't even fitting under the needle. It wasn't under the presser foot. When I tried to lower the presser foot, the presser foot wouldn't even go down. So let's try this now. So I'm going to start by sewing a part of it, stitching one side. I'm going to stop, stitch the other side, and then the corners. I just need to get this in there. Good Lord. Okay. I think this is gonna work. I hope so. I'm not going to add the binding to this or anything. All I'm going to do is trim it around the edge, around all the extra excess fabric here, and I am going to just turn it right side out, and that's it. It's not gonna be good. I feel like when I was starting to sew, like learning how to sew, that's how I feel right now. I feel yeah, my mistake, 100% my mistake. And yeah, I mean, just learn from my mistakes. And if you're gonna use faux leather, just don't use foam. Bottom line. I'm going to finish trimming the excess fabric here and here, and I'll turn it right side out and we'll see how it looks. Finish trimming this off. I hope it's right. We'll see. As you can see, I did not add the binding, but it still looks nice. I wouldn't sell this without the binding. I wouldn't put this in my store, even though I already sold it already. Even though it's not finished like that. They loved it so much. Now you know what happened and how to avoid that problem. If you want to learn how to add binding or the right foot for binding, you need to click here. I'll see you in the next video. Ciao.